This is Dolany TV, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening and welcome back to yet another edition of Edmonton Oilers discussion here on the channel today. After a much needed off day yesterday, let me tell you, January was a heck of a grind, and you know what? It finally felt good to just slow down, relax, and watch a game as almost as true of a fan as I could possibly be last night. I know I was chirping a little bit on the old community tab here on YouTube, which, by the way, if you haven't visited that recently, you've missed two gems in the past 2 days from Dolany TV past, which you want to check out to understand how I got here. But that said, we have a gem that we got to watch last night. Obviously, the gem of the Oilers system right now, the number one prospect, Evan Bouchard, who, well, came in and delivered exactly what we wanted to see out of him. Now, the thing was, right, there was well and due fear that you might not get exactly what we got out of him last night out of him. That did not pan out to be the case. If you're following still with the English that I'm improperly using, I'm sure, is the fact that Evan Bouchard came in, steady Eddie, got the job done, looked like Evan Bouchard that we've seen in the OHL, the AHL over in Sweden, and now really coming into his own in his first NHL game back since October 2018. Solid. Awesome, right? And think about where the Oilers are compared to October 2018 to now. It's nice to see that not only have the Oilers stepped forward kind of in the progression of what the team needs to be, not saying standings wise, we're 500. I'm not going to sit here and pretend like we're winning every single game. What I'm saying is taking the steps to become a winning team. And part of that winning team is developing prospects the right way. Evan Bouchard, a shining example last night of why you have to develop prospects the right way. At not even 22 years old, pardon me, at 21 years old, Evan Bouchard steps into the Oilers lineup after a couple development years and delivers a performance for the ages, okay? Not only do you see Evan Bouchard, a quote-unquote still rookie defenseman, only 8 games, his 8th game in the NHL last night, step in, play 16 minutes and 56 seconds time on the ice, 9 total shot attempts. He was firing the puck. Not a single giveaway to his credit last night. Yes, a couple of weirder defensive plays, but plays that he still made nonetheless. And the other thing, he did score a takeaway, and don't forget that assist on that beautiful tip by Jesse Puljujärvi to get the Oilers going. So now let's get it going. What have we got to talk about? I just have to get things talked about here in terms of the analytics. What the analytics tell me when it comes to Evan Bouchard. So this one, kind of a really skewed stat actually, because Corsi and Fenwick don't quite add up here. It's a stat that I used the other day to respond to Darnell Nurse and kind of what he's become as an elite number one defenseman through 12 games for the Oilers, is the fact that Evan Bouchard started 66, so 2/3 of his faceoffs were in the offensive zone last night. That allowed him to drive a Corsi 4, which is shots, blocks, and misses percentage of 58.8% in the Oilers' favor when he was on the ice. Now, the other side you need to know here as well is the on-ice shooting percentage with Evan Bouchard on the ice. Back in his 7 games back in 18-19, yes, the Oilers had some struggles scoring goals to start that year, but don't forget here that he only had a 2.6 on-ice shooting percentage, did Bouchard, as a team. When Bouchard was on the ice, the Oilers only shot 2.6%. Last night, the Oilers shot 14.3% on the ice when Evan Bouchard was on the ice. So that's a massive get. Obviously, right, is that's going to be helped out by 9 total shot attempts, 4 shots, and having players like Connor and Leon up there as well, and having the top line go out there and score a goal for you. But for Evan Bouchard, the numbers are there to back up what we saw. That's what I'm trying to get at with this video, is the fact that I was very impressed overall with the debut, right? Is you can talk about that chance Dadonov had off the rush and got Bouchard all kinds of turned around, and then he turned Dadonov around and we had to figure it out. But end of the day is, right, we have a couple of things to cherry pick about Bouchard's maybe defensive game or moving the puck or this or that. But I'm sorry, in 17 minutes of ice time last night, there is nothing that outweighs the positive that Evan Bouchard brought to the lineup last night. And now you look at that on ice zone start percentage that I was talking about, 66.7, or 2/3 of his starts being in the offensive zone for faceoffs. You have to be careful with that because, right, is now all of a sudden when you give him those tougher assignments, these awesome fancy stats we're talking about here, the Corsi, the Fenwick, whatever, are going to kind of shift because he's going to have to play tougher minutes. Now that's kind of the tough part for Evan Bouchard this coming stretch of games, I guess, if he's in against Calgary, if he's in the next couple against Ottawa, is the fact that he will have to stand up to the test of playing, if he plays Calgary, tougher competition than Ottawa. That's number one. But at the same rate as well as just having to step in there and play tougher minutes because, yeah, you get gifted some easy minutes in your first game just to kind of see what you have. But as the games go on, you're going to have tougher assignments if you're going to become an integral part of this defense. And for Evan Bouchard, that starts game 2, game 3, game 4, game 5 of this hockey season, that's for sure. So I just want to pull up the on-ice time statistics for Evan Bouchard last night, if I can, time on ice. And just, I don't want to say I'm missing power play time, but I feel like I'm missing power play time for Evan Bouchard last night. And it would appear he had a total of 10 seconds on the power play last night. So there we go. I know I was missing something. I saw him out there at one point. It wasn't for very long, but I just want to make sure I made note of that in this video as well. So 10 seconds of power play time. Obviously, I'm talking about tougher assignments for Evan Bouchard to see what we have in what could be our future number one right-hand D. But at the same rate is maybe, right, he got gifted easy assignments 5-on-5, but to see him get gifted some power play time as well, while also getting the reward for playing those tougher minutes. That's kind of the balance that Dave Tippett's going to have to strike here is now, right, the Oilers have seen a legitimate transition in the power play where Tyson Barrie's back to being the number one head honcho on the blue line, throwing the puck around, directing traffic, and scoring goals on the back end on the power play. That's great. Problem is, you also have Darnell Nurse, who's done it in the past and has done it this year, who's also proved capable so far in his appearances this year. I'm not saying Darnell Nurse is the solution. Don't get me wrong there. I would not say that, even though, yes, I love what Darnell Nurse has been doing through the season so far, and the stats back that up as well. But what you see now is you have Tyson Barrie. That's his job. That's why he's here. Let him run with it. But at the same rate is the Oilers have an emerging player like Evan Bouchard who showed well in easier minutes, right? Obviously, I can call those easier minutes based on what I've read online on his shifts so far in game number one. But at the same rate, right, is you have that emerging player who was kind of quote unquote similar to Tyson Barrie, but also capable of playing a much more rounded game than I think a lot of people would say Tyson Barrie is. So you combine those two things together, and that's where you got to maybe cut down on Tyson Barrie on the power play and almost go with an Alec Chase on James Neal when they're both in the lineup set up on the power play. Tyson Barrie gets 2 zone clears. If he can't get it going, Bouchard's over the boards, whether it be a minute 15 left or 45 seconds or 32 seconds. Give him the puck, give him the chance, give him the ability to run it. He's quarterbacked power plays the entirety of pretty much his major junior career, the AHL, and now give him that chance in a secondary role on the NHL level. That's kind of the next steps. So my thoughts all around on Evan Bouchard through game one, very impressive. Now the problem is, right, I've already dictated what I think needs to happen. Tougher minutes, also power play time. Give them both of those, right? The power play time as a reward for playing tougher minutes. And let's start now that we've gotten some kind of taste of Evan Bouchard. Let's go figure out what exactly the Oilers have at the NHL level in Evan Bouchard. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Tyson, this is Dolany TV. Thank you so much for tuning in this evening. What I want you to consider right now, I meant to ask off the top, please take my apology on this one. If you're new to the channel, on your way out, if you could consider hitting subscribe, that would be great. And if you've tuned in all the way through this 9 minutes and 55 seconds that I've gotten to right here, please hit that like button, and I will talk to you later on this evening. I am up on out of here.